Hello, everyone. Day three is in the books here from Tokyo. We had women's hammer final tonight. We had men's hammer qualifying this morning. And quite frankly, both competitions were absolutely ridiculous. And I'm very excited to talk about them. This is also a new PB for earliest time starting this show. It's only 1:38 a.m. Tokyo time, and there's no morning session tomorrow, which means that I actually get to sleep in a little bit. So win-win in the sleep department, which I desperately need. Um, Today was a great day. One little frustrating thing, though, is that I didn't get a ton of interviews today. The ones I did get will be linked in the description. Um, I don't know if I can change that now. It's I just published all the interviews live on my channel, and I will put the link in the description after I'm done recording this live. So if you're watching it back, go check those out. But I only got 4 interviews today, and let me cope. So in the morning session, Ben Salash escaped from the mix zone before I got down there. And then when I was interviewing Rudy Winkler, my boy, Ethan Katzberg walked right behind him and then just left. And so I couldn't interview Ethan, which was really sad. So I'll just have to get him tomorrow. And then in the evening, I was talking to Deanna Price when Janae Casanavoid walked by. And then I was talking to Cameron Rogers when Zhang Jiali and Zhao Ji walked by. So frustrating. Also, this isn't as frustrating. Like, I understand it, but I did ask Armin Jabatos for an interview, and he told me after the final. So look forward to that tomorrow. For one 19-year-old wonder kid after what we saw an 18-year-old wonder kid do today. Um, but yeah, that's my apologies and explanations for why I only got 4 interviews today. I'm very sorry about that. Anyway, let's get into some competitions from today. And we're going to start with the final. And we're going to start with women's hammer. And we're going to start with Cameron Rogers, the Olympic champion, the world champion, and now the world champion once again. She went 78.09 to open, would have won the competition. And then in round 2, she goes 80-51. Full transparency, I did not see this throw live, even though I was able to be sitting in the stands for this one, because one throw before, Zhao Ji went 76-54. And so I was typing up a tweet about that, and then I heard everyone freak out. I look up, and Cameron Rogers threw 80 meters, and I was like, how did I miss that? So just adding on to my unbelievable misfortune from today. So unfortunate there, but for Cam, 80-51. She's now the second best woman in history, moves ahead of Betty Heidel, moves ahead of Brooke Anderson, moves ahead of Deanna Price. Only sits behind Anita Vladarchuk now, the 4th woman ever over 80 meters. And to some extent, this kind of makes conversations about the women's hammer a little easier, because when Cameron would have these like insanely good marks, like, her 78-88 from pre, or I believe before that her PB was 78-80. And she's thrown 78 a ton, 77 high a ton. But in terms of like raw marks, she wouldn't quite be where Brooke or Deanna could be. And so like I think I've said multiple times throughout the year that like on her best day, Brooke Anderson is the best hammer thrower in the world. We just don't see her best day often enough. Shoot, speaking of that, that reminds me of a question I meant to ask Cameron, which I forgot to ask her, and now I'm upset. Anyway, that today kind of clears up that conversation because I think it's clear now that from whatever perspective you look at it from, Cameron Rogers is the best hammer thrower in the world, period. 80-51 is so crazy. I mean, I think we've all kind of been waiting for her to hit a mark like this for a couple years now, but it's a 1.71 meter PB. That is still ridiculous. Even if we kind of had like an inkling that she could have something like this in the tank, and pulling that out at Worlds is truly insane. And so obviously no one touched her. No one really challenged her this competition. But her series is something special. So 78.09, 80-51, 78-27 in round 3. A little dip in 4 and 5 with a foul and a 73. And then I think that 73 like clipped the right side of the cage on the way out. And then round 6 to close it out, she went 79-11, and just such a special moment because she releases this throw and like just immediately like collapses to her knees in the middle of the circle. So you could just tell how much this one meant to her. And it was really fun getting the chance to talk with her in the mix zone and just have her open up a little bit more about like why this one in particular was so special. So on so many levels, like this was an insane competition. I mean, she wins her 3rd straight global title. She hits a huge PB. It's another Canadian record, a North American record, which she takes from Deanna. Like I said, number 2 all time, the 4th woman ever over 80 meters. She said, I think, like today was the day that everything just came together. And so really could not script a better 2025 World Championships for Cameron Rogers. And it was a pleasure to watch and a pleasure to talk with her after the prelims and the finals. Now let's talk about what went on behind Cameron, because that was equally as crazy. Silver went to Zhao Ji of China, the Olympic bronze medalist from last year, and bronze went to Zhang Jiali, the 18-year-old world junior record holder who threw 77-24 a couple months ago in the summer, and she came out here and threw 77-10. An 18-year-old in the hammer just won a world bronze medal throwing 77 meters. I posed the question to both Cameron and Deanna of, please tell us how insane that is. And I tell you what, it's pretty freaking insane. And she put together such an incredible series. She opened at 76-22 and then had 74-54 in round 4 and then smacks that 77-meter bomb to close it out. And for a moment, when she threw that 77-10, she moved ahead of Zhao Ji, and then Zhao Ji answered with a PB of her own, going 77-60. I think that was a full meter PB for Zhao. So the podium ends up being, as Deanna Price predicted, all over 77. You have Cameron Rogers, 80-51, Zhao Ji, 77-60, building off that Olympic silver from last year, and Zhang Jiali really making her presence known on the global stage as still an 18-year-old, which is really, really insane to think about. But yeah, I think, let me check how old Zhao is, because I don't think she's that old either. Yeah, Zhao's 20. Oh, Zhao Shi is only 22. Oh my god, the rest of the world is so screwed. Oh my gosh. Is anyone other than Cameron, Zhao, or Zhang gonna medal for the next 15 years? Like, You have a 26-year-old throwing 80-50. You have a 22-year-old throwing 77-60, and an 18-year-old throwing 77-10. That's pretty nuts. That 22-year-old has 2 global medals already. God, the women's hammer is so good. And even though like this, I mean, on it, like to have both Chinese throwers on the podium is unexpected. To have no American women on the podium, definitely unexpected, given off what you would have thought coming into these championships. But I mean, they both just brought it. And like, I mean, I've talked a lot this year about like the kind of youth movement in the men's hammer and just how exciting of a time in that event we're kind of building towards. The women's hammer is right there with it, though. I did not realize how young Zhao Ji was. So yeah, like there's just a lot of stuff to be really, really excited for. Silja Kosonen, another phenomenal young thrower. She's also only 22. She took 4th here, which is her best finish at a major. She was, I think, 7th in Eugene and Budapest, maybe, and then 5th last year, if I'm remembering correctly, very much off the top of my head. And I mean, she put together a really consistent series. She just couldn't get that big one to go out there the same way that the women who ended up podiuming did. But for Silja, 74-66, 74-94, 74-16, 75-28, 73-79. So 5 legal throws within a meter and a half of each other, and they're all at really, really solid distances. Like that is a stellar series. Deanna Price took 5th, 75-10, and after talking with her in the mix zone, like it's clear this is very much kind of like a bittersweet, a bit of a conflicting finish for her because she did acknowledge it's better than where she was last year. Where I forget if she even made the Olympic final or I forget if she didn't make the final or if she did make the final and just didn't throw well. But anyway, last year, like she had a hamstring tear. Throwing at the Olympics, and that just did not go the way she wanted it to. And now, obviously, she was hoping for a little bit more. Yesterday she was talking about how she's in the best shape of her life, or the best shape she's been in since 2019 or 2021, where she won the world title in 19, set the American record, the previous number 2 performer all time, also in 2021. And so it's kind of, for her right now, it's kind of just the issue of like balancing those two like kind of conflicting emotions. But she talked about, and it's something when she was talking about this, I was kind of thinking about like how Rachel Richardson has been talking about like all year about how she needs to get used to the level of like good she is now. And Deanna was saying that this year she's lost 35 pounds because there were like legitimate health concerns. And like she said, her blood pressure was very high. And so that is a huge change. She said her goal is next year to get down to 215, which would be the lightest she's been since she was a sophomore in college, I believe. And so she's said that she's just dealing with a lot more speed in the ring, and a lot of stuff she hasn't felt in a very long time, if ever. So that's where kind of the disconnect was between the feeling like she's in the best shape she's ever been in, but the mark's not reflecting that. And I'm excited to see what is in store for her. Elenita Vladarchik finished 6th, 74-64. She also had a really consistent series with 5 legal throws. And all of them were, let's see, 272s, a 73, a 74, 273s, and a 74. That's a really good series for her. She ended up right around her season's best. And she's 40 years old in an event that is just so unbelievably deep, still finishing sixth in the world. That's crazy. Major hat tip, as always, to Anita Wlodarczyk. Krista Turvo fouling out of this final was pretty surprising. And it kind of stunk because, she's so good and she's been so good this year and could have been a real legitimate medal contender if things broke a different way, I guess. And then Janae Castonavoid also did not have her best stuff today. Fouled her first throw. Her second throw, I think, went cage and into the sector. It was measured at 35 meters. And then basically threw 70 flat her next two throws. But I wasn't able to interview her in the mix zone, unfortunately. But I overheard her talking to someone else. And it sounded like she was in decent spirits about it, kind of in the same vein as Deanna, where it's acknowledging where she was last year, and how much better 10th in the world is than I think she was like 11th at Olympic trials last year. And so just appreciating that delineation and the growth from year to year, I think is still kind of what Janae's focusing on, which like she does have a lot to be proud of with the way she bounced back, and had a really consistent season this year. And, Hammer, I'm 99% certain, is in the World Ultimate Championships next year. So she still has something to look forward to where, she can pick up some international hardware next year to kind of keep driving this, keep the revenge train rolling, so to speak, because 10th it's great. It's an improvement. That's really something to be proud of. But, this is a woman who has global silver and bronze in her medal case. And so 10th isn't necessarily something she's going to be satisfied with. So excited to see what 2026 holds in store for both Janae and Deanna and Brooke and Rachel. I mean, really just kind of not the championships that as an American, you were hoping we'd have. But these women are still so good. Like, I mean, the four of them are four of the 8 best women in history. And so that's one bad meet isn't going to define any of them. Or, I mean, in Deanna's case, one okay meet. Like, she still threw 75 and finished 10th in the world. Or finished 5th in the world, I should say. So, yeah, 2024, the American women are going to be coming for some, or 2024, gosh, I need to go to sleep. 2026, the American women are going to be coming for some heads. But so is Cameron Rogers, and I don't know if anyone will be able to take down that head, so to speak. Men's hammer qualifying now. How do I find the World Athletics and their results website is the most infuriating thing in the world. Let's see if I can pull up the results, because that would be helpful for this. All right. The men's hammer, I was talking with Rudy about it a little bit in the mix zone before we started the interview. And the auto cue mark this year was 7640, which is super duper low. I mean, a lot of these guys can wait. No, it was not 7640. It was 7650. Apologies. Still, a lot of these guys can nail that with their eyes closed, and a lot of these guys did nail it. We saw 9 guys get the auto cue mark. And really, like, an auto cue doesn't really mean that much, I feel like, because you just take the top 12 anyway. And like, I doubt you're ever going to see a situation, even with this kind of measly qualifying mark. Like, I don't think you're ever going to see a situation with like 13 people get the auto queue so that an extra person gets into the final, which I don't even know if that's how it would work. I guess there is the thing where, like, if you get the auto queue, like, it saves you 2 more needless throws, I guess. But also, I don't really know how big of a deal that is, especially for these events that are across 2 days. Like, I can understand the shot put, that could be a big deal because qualifying and final are within like 12 hours of each other. But yeah, I mean, you had 10 guys or 9 guys smash that auto queue mark, led obviously by Ethan Katzberg. He threw 81.85. Anyone have any questions about that? Very much Budapest type beat, I think, because when you look at 2023, I mean, he had never thrown 80 before, and then he threw 81.18 in qualifying. And this year has obviously been a really good year for him. Like, he's thrown 82.77. He's been over 81 a ton. He's only had, I think, 2 meets under 80. But he is coming into this one, like, there's strong cases you can make for him not to be the favorite. And so it would have been nice to be able to ask him if his intention for this one was to come in and really make a statement. But regardless of what he was trying to do, he absolutely succeeded in making that very emphatic statement that the world champ is not going to go easily into that good night. So sorry, Ben Salash and Rudy Winkler. You're going to need to dethrone Ethan Katzberg if you want to win global gold, because this is a guy who just threw 81.85 in qualifying. And it's kind of funny because for this flight, I was down in the mix zone doing my real job. And so I was watching it on, they have like a bunch of monitors there. And I saw like Ethan, like he took like, I didn't realize it was warm ups, and so I looked over and I saw Ethan like take a full throw, and it landed at like 80 mid, and I'm like, all right, yeah, this thing's wrapped up. Like, he just threw 80 mid on his first attempt of qualifying, and then I realized, wait, the competition doesn't start for 10 more minutes, so that was a practice throw that went well over 80 meters. And then he went even further over 80 meters in his first competition throw. So I have no doubts about Rudy Winkler. About Rudy Winkler, I really need to go to sleep. Have no doubts about Ethan Katzberg. He's still the king. Audrey texted me today after Ethan threw 81.85. She said, have you used the cats out of the bag? And I don't think I have, but now I will, because I tell you what, the cat's out of the bag, that Ethan Katzberg is still the man to beat comfortably at these championships. Other guys that got big cues, none of them were as flashy as 81.85, because that is surprisingly a hard thing to do. In fact, Ethan Katzberg had the longest qualifying round throw by 3 meters. Pavel Fidek, oh my goodness. Pavel Fidek went 78.78 on his second throw. Merlin Hummel 78.54 on his first throw. Ben Halash 78.42 on his first throw. Ivan Hendrickson 77.70. Rudy Winkler 77.46 on his first throw. Tom Smardal 77.34 on his first throw. Mihailo Kokon 77.33 on his first throw. And then, as I previously mentioned, the 19-year-old Armin Jabados threw 77.10 to secure a 9th auto qualifier spot. What a big day for him. And this final is going to be insane because there's obviously a potential that Ethan comes out in the first round and just hits like 84 something and gets something that's even outside of the range of Rudy and Bentz. But if he goes like 82, there's definitely kind of a response that could be there. And so I think regardless, I think there's more competition for Rudy than there was for Cameron. Not necessarily leading into it, but I don't expect let's see, Cameron won by like 3 meters. I don't expect Ethan to win by 3 meters unless if he breaks the world record and throws 87. Then that might be the case, but until then, we'll find out. Most of the favorites made it through a kind of. I don't want to take a victory lap. I don't want to be a jerk. But in 14th place, failing to make the world final, despite throwing 81 meters on 3 occasions this year, is Jan Chosanand. I hope I never meet Jan because I feel like if he sees any of this, he's going to beat me up. But it's just a matter of he can't seem to replicate his smaller competition efforts to competitions that matter a whole lot more, or competitions with much better competition. And so now he finds himself outside of the final. Who else? Oh, Danny Haw, unfortunately, only managed 74.87 to finish 17th, so he won't be in the final. But very exciting, Trey Knight threw 76.40 on his final throw. And now, who needs the NCAA final when you have the world final, which Trey Knight will be a part of, which is really exciting. That is kind of all of the biggest stuff from men's hammer. It's going to be so much fun. And women's hammer was just a great taste of that. Rudy says 83 to medal might be a little much, but I think he said that 82 is pretty possible. Or he might have just said there's going to be a lot of throws over 80. He might have been less specific than I'm making it in my head. But anyway, day 3 was good. Day 4 is going to be good. And like I said, there's no morning session tomorrow. Blessing in disguise because I will get to sleep, which I really need. But men's hammer is the final in the evening, so stay tuned for updates on that. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to check out the interviews that I will have linked in the bio or in the description if you aren't watching this live, or you can just go to my YouTube channel and it should be the first video to pop up. But yeah, I love being at Worlds. This is a lot of fun. I like doing these live streams mainly because it saves me the hassle of editing things, which I hate doing sometimes. But that is all I got for you guys. So thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Follow the Instagram at Polythrows, the Twitter at PHoffMahoney, and I will see you guys next time.